Excited for a fresh start.
Yeah.
I'm
Totally.
excited. I feel like I need a fresh start.
Yeah, for sure. You ready?
Yes.
Let's boogie. What up, family? I'm MJ,
And I'm Amanda.
and I'm so excited to be with y'all. I know that y'all are used to seeing Amanda on the channel. She's been kind of driving her channel lately, but I was like, you know what? Let me pop back up real quick.
Let's hit him with the marriage content.
Hit them with the marriage content. Chat with the people of God on today. The people on YouTube.
Yeah. So lately, Michael and I have been feeling more of a tug to share more marriage nugget and how we've navigated our 9 years of marriage. You know, we've been together for over 10 years now. You want to kind of share with the people how our renewed desire to share more marriage content came from?
Yeah, we have helped a lot of people as it related to premarital content. Because the thing about premarital content is that there is like a clear start line and finish line. Whenever we do premarital counseling with couples, if it wasn't a fit, we just be like, hey,
Yeah.
this ain't it.
I have no problem telling them.
Y'all do not have our recommendation on that. I found that to be honestly pretty easy, especially having a pretty strong premarital process ourselves, not being in that journey anymore. That was kind of where we spent a lot of time. Recently, we've been sharing some information with friends, colleagues, even members of our church. We co-hosted a marriage retreat through our church, and the amount of breakthrough that people were getting was just incredible. I was surprised by it because some of these couples that were getting breakthrough from the things we were saying had been married literally 4 times longer than we had. And they were pulling us off to the side like, hey, this was really helpful. This was really impactful. Can you help us navigate this? And it was like, wow, I believe that we have something to contribute to the space. Obviously, we've contributed some things to the space already. We have a book.
How you feeling, boo?
I'm feeling great. We should keep this in here.
Okay.
So Amanda has an alarm that goes off every day to ask me about my feelings because I'm a very analytical person. I'm not a feelings-oriented person. She just has something very intentional that allows for her to check in on me and to see how the day is gone. So
Moments of vulnerability.
moments of vulnerability, anything and everything, even weird things. That said, you know, we had helped a lot of couples. We have already contributed to the space as it relates to the book, Love Your First Year of Marriage, that we have on Amazon. But even when we wrote that book, that was before we had kids. That was before we had even gotten pregnant. That was before we had friends with kids. We were 22 and 21. It was before we had made significant career transitions. It was before we lived in Atlanta. It was like before we did meaningful and impactful things. I believe now we can add just a little bit more meat and potatoes given the experiences we have having children and careers and navigating a decade. We had a friend that was really encouraging us like, hey, y'all should like really consider doing this. After she saw the way that we had navigated certain spaces, it was just like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's try it. Now, if y'all watch this and we only get like 17 views, then we're probably not going to do any more marriage content.
Yeah, no.
We're going to do it regardless.
It sounds cliche, but it's only cliche because it's true. The biggest thing is communication. Couples have breakdown in their marriage when there's a breakdown of communication. And so if you can really solidify the communication, that's like half of the work. A method that we learned in premarital counseling called the feed it back method. Even though we learned it in premarital counseling, we just kind of got away from it. But it was while we were in counseling ourselves, like marriage counseling, that I was responding to something that he said, but I never affirmed or validated what he had said first. So it didn't even land well because he didn't even know how I received it. Essentially, the counselor said, if you would have repeated to him what he had said, maybe there would have been a shift to where he would have comprehended what you're trying to communicate. And then boom, trigger went off. The feed it back method. Like, why did we ever get away from the feed it back method?
It's kind of in the name, but like, what is the feed it back method and what's the purpose of it?
I'll tell you what the feed it back method is, and then we'll do a little role play. And so basically the feed it back method is somebody expresses their thoughts and their feelings. And then the person who's listening, when they're finished communicating, will say, thank you for sharing. Here's what I hear you saying. What I hear you saying is communicate back what they've said. Use as much of their verbiage as possible. Maybe even put a few things in your own words to communicate and show that you really truly comprehend it. And this will help the other person feel heard. And then you can say, am I understanding you correctly? And then that offers an opportunity for the other person to respond, to add more context, add more nuance, or to say, yes, that's exactly how I feel. And then from there, you can respond. And then the next person can do the feedback method as well. And in that, it slows down the communication process, but then it actually speeds it up.
Yeah.
Because you're taking the time on the front end to get rid of any potential miscommunication, and you're over communicating to affirm, I hear you, I see you, I validate you. And with that foundation, you can actually make some moves.
Yeah, straight up. Spending an extra 2 minutes on the feedback method can save you an extra 20 to 30 minutes on the back end of cleaning up miscommunications, things that were misconstrued. It can save a lot of time if you just invested up front.
Yeah, and it's more like if you invest another 10 to 15 minutes on the front end, it'll probably save you a few years on the back end. So it's more time on both ends.
Yeah, most definitely.
You know, because when you hurt someone deeply because they feel misunderstood, because they don't feel heard, because they feel not considered, I mean, the damage could be not irreparable, but like borderline not repairable.
Yeah, it just really depends on what it is.
Laying that foundation on the front end and getting crystal clear on that communication really helps.
So let's role play. You know, it can't be marriage content without a little bit of role play. Let me set the stage for the context. So about a month ago, Amanda mentions to me that she's frustrated with me because I told her that I would give her Mondays to work during the summer. I'll hold it down with the kids so that you can do your YouTube videos. I know at 1:30 is when you like to film those. So at 1:30, I'll knock it out with the kids for sure. Now, what I didn't know was there were other things that were involved in the filming of a YouTube video that takes more time than her just popping up here and just talking. And so because of that, she had an expectation I would be giving her more time. Because of that, I didn't give her that time because I was cutting my hair, but she was expecting that time. It caused some tension. And so I used the feedback method and it worked out great.
Hey babe, can I be vulnerable with you about something? I'm feeling a little bit frustrated right now.
Yeah, babe, what's up?
So I'm over here, you know, doing my hair and makeup in the mirror, prepping for my YouTube video. And you mentioned cutting your hair. I wasn't all the way for you cutting your hair. You didn't really give me space to respond to that idea. You know, I figure that if you cut your hair right now, then who's really watching the kids? And if the kids are just kind of doing their own thing, then, you know, are they going to get in my space? And that's actually what happened. You know, like Lily, you know, started crawling over me and she's saying she wants to put on makeup too. And she's, you know, trying to do her hair too. And then, you know, Elijah's sad about something. Nobody's there to comfort him. I'm thinking this is my time to work and you're cutting your hair while he's sad. And honestly, it's just like a lot for me right now. I'm feeling a little overstimulated and like time is ticking and it's almost past noon now. And I'm thinking to myself, hey, if I'm filming right at 1 or right at 1:30, like I need that hour to hour and a half of prep time to make sure that I'm ready with the content that I'm going to film. It's all set up. By the time you're leaving, boom, I'm hitting record. And now it's feeding into that, you know, it's eating into that time. And I don't know what I'm going to do. It's going to push the time back. And, you know, what if I don't get to recording until 30 minutes after you guys leave and then you guys come back, I'm not finished recording and then it throws the whole day off. And I'm just like frustrated. And I, you know, thought you would have given me that time. And the kids are like doing the most.
Got it. Thanks for sharing that with me. So here's what I hear you saying. I hear you saying that I had given you this time mapped out or this day mapped out for you to work. And you anticipated me giving you more time before the 1:30 mark of your film time to prep for whatever video you were going to do. And so now you're experiencing some frustration because Lily's climbing on you, Elijah's crying, I'm cutting my hair. And so you feel like, as it relates to the kids, the onus and the responsibility is on you to hold it down when in reality, you thought that you were going to be getting this time to focus on prepping for your video and doing the things that you need to do to get as much work done as possible. Did I perceive that correctly?
Yes. And
Okay.
I just thought that you cutting your hair did not consider me. I didn't think that it was like the best decision to make, you know, given that we're just getting into this new groove of you giving me Mondays and like if you're doing that and I'm getting ready, then like who's with the kids? And so I just really, I don't know. I just felt like that really bothered me.
Yeah, for sure. So first off, I'm sorry for hurting you and frustrating you. It is never my intention to hurt you or frustrate you ever. So I apologize for the way that I made you feel. I wanted to give you more context to what I was thinking. So I did not know that you needed that hour to hour and a half before that 1:30 time frame to prepare. That wasn't something that we discussed. Now that you mentioned it to me, I totally understand. I get it. That just wasn't something that I knew. I was thinking in my mind, my internal clock was, okay, at about 1, we're going to be getting ready so that way we're walking out of the house at 1:30 to give you some time to work. And so I didn't know that. I apologize. Like I said, I don't think that there's a way I could have known that unless a situation like this came up. But what I'll do is I'll actually just set an alarm on my phone for 7 a.m. and 11 a.m. Just so I can prep the kids to let them know, hey, mommy's working today at 11 a.m. Like we're getting ready to leave out the house. And then that way you get the time that you need. But how would that make you feel? Do you feel like that would be a good solution?
Yeah, I do think that would be a really good solution. And I appreciate it. I know that I, came in kind of hot. I was just really frustrated. And so
Sure.
I just appreciate you like listening and hearing me even when I am frustrated because, it could have been a lot worse. So just thank you. And like what I hear you saying is that you couldn't have known that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I assumed that you would, because if you're only out for an hour and a half,
Mm-hmm.
then I can't be prepping during that time. I have to be filming during that time.
Sure.
But I realize now that, those expectations weren't communicated. And so that's on me. And, I apologize for not communicating those expectations. And I think it took a situation like this for me to even recognize that like that had to be clearly outlined as well. But I just really appreciate it. And I just really grateful. And I think this will work out.
Absolutely. Do you feel fully expressed?
Yeah, I would just say that, we're running kind of behind now. So now that we're running behind, like we got to kind of come up with like a new plan to make it work.
Sure.
But I think we can make it work, and, I can get my stuff filmed and all of that still.
Yeah, for sure. I'll wrap things up with my hair now, and then I'll get the kids out. We'll do some stuff, and then we'll also go to the grocery store. And that way it'll buy you some more time that you otherwise wouldn't have had. And hopefully, with that time, you should be all set.
Thanks, honey. I really appreciate it. Love you.
You'll love you back. Cool. So that was a very realistic, like, not realistic.
It was
like,
very realistic. That's kind of how it flowed.
that was exactly how it flowed in many ways. So
I was just a little more frustrated in the real situation.
yeah, in the real situation, a little bit more spicy. But I would say that even though you were a little bit more spicy, I feel like my tone and my approach was pretty similar. Like
Pretty
calm,
even keel, yes.
Yeah. And the reason I say that is just because I know that, like, as men, sometimes our wives can come to us kind of hot. And it's like important that, like, we remain even keel, that we breathe, that we take a pause, And as she's expressing herself, if you go and look back in the video, I am her and I'm nodding my head. I'm not looking at her like a statue. No expressions.
That's a real thing.
No like concern, no anything. To make her even think to say like, are you even listening to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm listening to you. You see me right? And boom, there it goes. Yeah, I mean,
it's an argument.
And
yeah.
there you go. There y'all go. You know what I mean? Like just, okay, good. Like understand where she's coming from. And honestly, this situation was kind of Amanda's fault. Like, not like tongue in cheek, but kind of for real. It was Amanda's fault for not communicating her expectations on prep time because she made an assumption. And for me, I also made an assumption. I'm like, oh yeah, she probably, whenever we do these YouTube videos, we don't prep for an hour, hour and a half. You know what I mean? Like when we're just sitting here chatting it up with each other. So even though I could have perceived it as her fault. And even though she later apologized, I still apologized first. Michael, what did you apologize for? You didn't do nothing wrong. I did not do anything wrong. I didn't apologize for what I did. I apologized for how I made her feel. The two can be completely different. Your intent does not equal your impact. I could be walking and I could step on someone's toe and say, oh, I'm sorry for the way that I made you feel, I mean, I guess I'd be sorry for what I did too in that scenario, but it's not like I intended to step on your toe, but it happened. Like, it was an accident. It hurt you. I'm sorry, you know? And so in that same way, I think that it's important to know that if you can delineate that, that's a cheat code that I learned in premarital dating. I can apologize to her for the way that I made her feel without apologizing and saying that I did something wrong. And that right there, you take that, that'll keep you married for a decade right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes a big difference, you know, because so long as I felt heard and understood and cared for and loved in that moment, then it puts me in a place where I feel equipped to communicate and problem solve, you know? And so it felt like we're on the same team and like it's us against the problem, us against the time, us against the logistics, as opposed to Michael against me. Mm-hmm. And so I think another big piece of that is like recognizing bids, right?
Yes.
Like, I think that if a bid for connection, a bid for mutual understanding, a bid for communication and vulnerability is rejected or misunderstood because the packaging isn't perfect, then something that could actually draw a couple closer could tear them further apart.
Yeah.
And so an example of that was, I'm saying, hey, honey, I'm feeling kind of frustrated. Can I be vulnerable with you? Can I share my feelings with you? Mm-hmm. In that moment, and my tone was a little hotter, you know, like, hey, babe, I'm feeling frustrated right now. Like, can we talk, you know?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
And because it's wrapped in that tone, and tone matters, don't get me wrong, but we're not going to be perfect.
Right.
And
Especially
you can't
in
expect
emotional times.
Exactly. You can't expect people to be picture perfect. And so while tone matters, what happens when things aren't perfectly packaged, right? Mm-hmm. It was still a bid to communicate my feelings for us to connect and problem solve together. At the end of the day, that's what the bid was.
Yeah.
And if Michael rejected the bid because maybe he was like, oh, that's not my problem. That's, you know, like that's on you, or, you know, why are you coming at me like that? And just get really defensive. Then that could have made me feel so unseen, unloved, unheard, uncared for. Oh, and now we're fighting. We're scrapping at this point. You know?
For sure.
And so I think he just recognized, hey, this is a bid. Let me take my feelings out of it. Let me take, you know, let me not be defensive. And in it, I just was like, you know, you're the best husband ever. I love you so much, you know. I want to do anything for you.
Yeah, it was so sweet. And I would also say, too, like, you have to think about the long game in every situation. I saw that she was frustrated. We were in the middle of the day. She had just had a conversation with me the day before about how important it was for her to get content and stuff out and like feel purposeful and reach the people she feels called to reach. So as she's expressing frustration with me, I'm also thinking to myself, if this blows up into something, then she's going to be emotional. She's not going to be in the headspace to get any work done. Or it's going to take her hours to cool off to get the work done, which means I'm going to have the kids for longer. Or she's going to call it a day, rebound, regroup tomorrow. Well, that's my work day. But then, you know, like the argument would have been both of our faults. And so how are we going to navigate that? And it just would have thrown things off so much to where it's just like, listen, my mom and dad, they've been married for 30 years next month. And my dad taught me this one phrase in marriage. He said, son, sometimes you got to lose the battle to win the war. Listen, that has blessed me because it's like some things just are not worth it. Like, I care more about us having a great day than I care about showing you that you were wrong in assuming and putting expectations on me that were unsaid. I'd just rather have a great day.
And the thing is, like, if he's really loving and understanding and apologizes for how he made me feel and helps problem solve with me, I want to apologize.
Exactly.
I recognize my wrong all by myself. Like, oh, this was my doing. I'm sorry, baby. That's my fault. That's my bad, you know? Like, but it's easy to recognize that and communicate that when you're met with humility. It's easy to be humble when you're met with a humble person.
Totally.
And so I think your approach to one another, especially when you're sharing heated emotions, like, it makes a big difference.
Oh, it makes a huge difference. It matters a lot. it matters a lot.
I wanted us to talk on the bid just a little bit more. There was another couple at the marriage retreat to where, we were talking with them, and when we got to the root of their problem, the root of their problem was that they were both missing one another. They were misunderstanding one another. They both wanted to be seen. They both wanted to be heard. They both wanted connection. But whenever one person came with a bid, that bid was rejected because the bid wasn't recognized. The other person would come with a bid. That bid would be rejected because the bid wasn't recognized. That's when they stop seeing one another as their lover, their best friend, and they start seeing one another as an enemy. What would you say it takes for a spouse to recognize and receive a bid for love and connection, even when it's hard to recognize?
Just from the men's side, many times men are solutions oriented. When you are making a bid as a woman, many times he's going straight for the solution, which you actually don't maybe even need unless you ask for it. Many times men perceive expressing yourself as a bid to problem solve, but it's not a bid to problem solve. It's a bid to listen. It's a bid to understand. And then trusting your woman to come to the solution herself, but not by herself. One time I was telling a guy, do you like football? I was like, yes. I was like, who's your favorite team? The Dallas Cowboys. I said, I'm sorry. Because who that? And so I was like, you're familiar with a Hail Mary, right? He was like, yeah. A Hail Mary is when you hike the ball and the quarterback throws it, 60 yards down the field to score. You do that in emergency situations. Like there's 1-2 seconds left, down by 6 points. Like we gotta score, so we're just gonna throw a Hail Mary. Sometimes it works, but most of the time it doesn't. 99% of the time it doesn't work. And so I was like, man, just imagine if you're watching the Dallas Cowboys and they're throwing Hail Marys down the field. How would you feel about that? Man, I'd be mad. I'm like, but the goal is to score a touchdown every play, isn't it? Yeah. And so isn't that the quickest way to the solution is just like throwing a Hail Mary? And then in that moment, he got it. He realized just because something is the most direct solution doesn't mean it is the best solution or the most efficient solution.
Or the most likely solution.
So I said, hey, buddy, asking your wife questions about her feelings is like the running and the passing. She tells you her feelings, you ask questions, she discovers some things. Hey, that's a first down. You ask some more questions and she expresses herself some more. Boom, that's another first down. And then before you know it, you're down the field to where she just run the ball into the end zone. Boom, y'all score, y'all come to a solution. And she believes that you helped her get there versus you just trying to like throw Hail Marys down the field and cross your fingers that it works. And so to the men, I would say that those bids are often for connection and conversation and curiosity, if we want to remain alliterative, and not solutions.
Yes, that's so good. That is really good. I would completely agree with that. A lot of problems in marriage would be solved if we asked more questions. I would agree with that.
And I have an original quote. In the absence of questions is the presence of assumptions.
Mm-hmm. And you know what they say about assumptions?
That is not an original quote.
They make it out of you and me. My 7th grade band teacher taught me that.
Really?
I never forgot. He literally wrote it on the chalkboard in class. But it's real.
But
get it in your mind. It could be as simple as, hey, honey, I noticed that you're cutting your hair while I'm getting ready to film at 1 or 1:30. What was the time that you may have intended for me to get ready? And did you envision me having the kids during that time? That's another approach I could have taken.
It is.
And those are approaches that I do take when I'm not as heated, right?
Most definitely. And even at the end of the conversation, I asked a question that I want y'all to like memorize. Husbands, if you're watching this without your wife, this is a cheat code question.
Oh, yeah.
You already know what question I'm about to say? Mm-hmm. The question is, and I already asked it earlier if you watched the video.
I just really grateful, and I think this will work out.
Absolutely. Do you feel fully expressed? Do you feel fully expressed? Because sometimes they've expressed themselves, but then there's just a little bit more like...
And even if you solved it and made it all better, they'd be like, okay, thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah.
But there's this one thing I've been meaning to say. I'm sitting on it. I gotta get it out. You know what I'm saying? Make sure they're fully expressed and then tied up with a bow. We gotta let our feelings pass through us, especially as women. I mean, I think men need it a lot too. That's why a lot of men have anger issues because they don't recognize they need it. But letting your emotions pass through you and getting them all out as opposed to suppressing them or trying to move on without addressing them. And that's one of the things I've learned with Michael, because many times in the past, he would be focused on making sure I felt good. And then his needs weren't met. His feelings weren't addressed. And so it's important for me to do a little bit of digging and make sure that he gets all of his feelings out so that he doesn't have built up resentment.
Which is why you have a timer.
You mean my alarm?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
You said timer. I'm like, is this a football reference?
No. Let me run it back for editing.
No. Yeah.
Which is why you have your alarm.
Exactly.
You have the alarm so that way you can check in with me on my feelings and you don't feel fully resolved while I'm over here just dealing with it on my own by myself.
And I think that's a huge part of just knowing your spouse. Like knowing if your spouse is someone who will make their emotions and thoughts and feelings readily available to you, or whether they're the type who need to be prompted and asked a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
I think for a long time, I assumed that Michael didn't have a lot of feelings because he doesn't cry. He doesn't really get heated. I just thought, well, maybe he just doesn't experience feelings very much and he doesn't express his feelings very much. But what I learned over time was that he does have feelings, but he doesn't always have language for his feelings. And so my role as a wife is to help prompt and ask questions in the same way I want to be asked questions. But I have to be more mindful about it with him because he's not going to come up and say, hey, I'm frustrated, you know? But me reading his body language and saying, hey, I noticed this, I noticed that, how are you feeling? Opening up that space, and then from there, helping him to identify his feelings when he doesn't know how to put language behind it.
Yeah.
Like you've grown a lot in that area. Before I would say like, oh, how are you feeling? He'll say, you know, I feel like that's interesting. I'm like, interesting is not a feeling. Do you feel confused? Do you feel astounded? Do you feel perplexed, right? And so using my area of strength, which is knowing how to identify my feelings and emotions, being such a feeler, and allowing that to be an opportunity for Michael to be known has helped a lot because, you know, areas in which before he might have just took something on the chin, ate it, and never felt expressed. I believe now, like, you have space to actually express yourself. And I think that that has really benefited our marriage as well.
Oh, for sure. And there are times where some things are like mental and then some things are just physiological. Like sometimes, honestly, this past week, pretty much anytime Amanda has asked me how I'm feeling, what has been my response?
Tired.
I have been tired.
And not a fake tired, not like a tired, but I want you to dig a little more. Because some people be playing mind games like that. Like, no, he don't play mind games.
I don't play
He was
those
just
ones.
tired.
I've just been tired for like a good week and some change.
I mean, it's been busy.
It's been busy.
Yeah.
It's been very busy. And so the vibes that I give off when I'm tired are actually similar vibes that I give off when I'm frustrated.
Yeah.
And holding it in. And it's not a mind game, but it's just like sometimes I don't just, I'll just eat it. You know what I mean? I'll just figure it out. Amanda, there was one day where she had asked me like a couple of times, like, so how are you feeling? Because like she was picking up on my vibes. And I was like, babe, I promise you we're good. Like we are awesome. I'm doing pretty good. I could take a fat nap right now, but I can't.
It has to be a level of like trust built to be able to ask, how are you doing? And like trust the other person's response. Because I think that there's like this ongoing bit of like wives or girlfriends saying, how are you feeling? Do you love me? Do you really love me? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like husbands asking, how are you doing? And, the women saying fine, but then holding resentment. I think it's really important to actually share how you feel. Legitimately, if you're prompted and asked, actually share how you feel. Now, sometimes it's hard to just offer it up in the heat of the moment.
Sure.
So Michael and I have kind of like code words almost.
We do.
So it's like when Michael says, how are you doing? I say, I'm good.
Then
I'm good.
I know that she's good.
I'm
so
great.
happy. I'm so happy you're touching on this because that was literally about to be my next point.
Yes.
And when you flowed into it, I was just like,
Yes. And it's kind of unspoken, but it works. So if I say I'm good, it really means I'm good. Or if I'm saying I'm great, it really means I'm great. If I say I'm doing all right, or I'm doing fine, or I'm doing okay, that's code for something's off.
yeah.
Let's do some digging.
Hey, babe, how you doing?
I'm doing okay.
just okay?
Yeah, I was blah, 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 blah.
That's exactly how it is.
That's all it
exactly how it is. She's not going to just come out, hey, babe, how you doing? Well, I was blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Like, she's not going to do that.
I actually think it's nice. I think it's common courtesy.
Yeah.
That way you don't go dumping.
Oh, for sure. Honestly, that's another thing, too, is understanding how to frame the conversation so that the other person hears certain language and they know what to prepare for.
Exactly.
So Amanda actually did this earlier when we were role-playing the conversation. Some phrases that we use. Can I be vulnerable with you about something? Can I process something with you? Can I express myself about something?
I need a vent.
I need to vent. Those phrases are kind of like, hey, put my phone down, look her in the eye. Okay, what's going on? What's happening? First thought is this about me? When it's not, I'm just like, okay.
Let her rip.
Give me the tea. Like, that's just how it is.
Yeah.
And so, but those code words create a language around conversation so that you're not blindsiding the other person.
Yeah.
We had a situation recently to where, and it didn't even have anything to do with me, but she blindsided me kind of with like some conversation.
Yeah, I started expressing without the buffer.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, like why he was needing to kind of recover from it. And then he was like, oh, you didn't like prime it or give the buffer. And I was like, oh, you're right. I think if I received that, I would need to recover too, and it made a lot of sense. And I was like, okay, I'll be mindful if I need to express in this way. Can I be vulnerable?
And it just prepares the person because the person will be able to help you. I served you fine in this situation, but I think I would have been able to serve you even better if I would have known this was the direction we're going in. Because she asked me like, hey, how are you doing? I was like, oh, I'm good. We did this, we did this, did this. I was like, how are you doing? And she was just like, blah. So I think that's really, really important. And let's just say this person needs to process with you. Your spouse, you're in the middle of work or you're not doing, or like you're not in a good place mentally or something like that. Even just saying, I want to give you my undivided attention. You are so important to me. I have about 20 minutes left of like work stuff. If I don't do it now, I'm probably going to forget about it or it won't get done. And I may actually be thinking about it while we're having our conversation, which would be unfair to you. Can I knock this out? I promise you I'm going to work as quickly as possible. I will not forget about you. We will process whatever you want to process. It matters to me. How does that land with you? How do you feel about that? That's more language. How does that land with you? How do you feel about that? Like, once again, this is language that you can use that softens the flow of conversation and kind of levels off emotion.
And it helps with check-ins, like it's check-in language because you could be expressing, but it's also good to have a pulse and a gauge on how the other person is receiving it and how they're feeling, So saying, how does this land with you? How are you navigating all of this? Like that helps a ton. So
yeah. Or even like, not in a mean way, but like, what did you hear me say? Can you kind of express to me what you heard?
Yeah.
And that way, like, you can ensure in your check-in language through the conversation that both parties are actually on the same page. That's big as well.
That's huge. Well, we're putting you guys on game.
Plenty of game. So any final thoughts? Do you feel fully expressed?
I do feel fully expressed. What I'm thinking is, this is a whole series. Like, there's so many things we need to talk about. We need to talk about love cup, talk about boundaries.
Yes.
We need to talk about interrupting, like there is a lot to cover, so this is a little, sample.
Yeah.
But no, like if you guys use the feed it back method, that just alone, that will change your marriage. Don't just watch this video. Don't be just hearers and seers of the videos, but be a doer of it.
He that hath an ear, she that hath an let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus.
There you go.
And Amanda.
Hey, this will help you.
This will bless you.
Don't sleep on it.
This will bless you. I feel fully expressed. You feel fully expressed. We're going to let y'all enjoy the rest of your day or night. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We love you. And until next time.
Wait, no. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, comment down below what stood out to you, what blessed you, share a little unprompted thought.
Oh, yes.
Yes, any of that. We just want to know, how it all lands with you.
Yes, let us know how it landed with you. And until next time.
See you in our next video.
See you later.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.
Love y'all. That was a strong video.
Yeah, I
I
think
felt
it's
really good about that one.